Oh, thank God you came back. We got the map. We got the Dragon Buster. Forbidden knowledge. Hypnotism. Grandpa's car. And the Xevious pizza balls. My God, it's full of stars. Namco Museum Volume 2. Starting here and now. Yep, not gonna lie, Volumes 1 and 2 are pretty basic. No offense meant to these beloved classics of game, these stalwarts of diversion, these long-standing boredom slayers. Before Volume 1 dropped, the basic idea of a video game compilation was simply to present a package deal. Value for the dollar when buying in bulk. Namco Museum isn't even Namco's first compilation, actually. That honor belongs to Disc NG1, released for the MSX2 in 1990, about 5 years prior to Namco Museum Volume 1, and that was just the menu for launching the games. This is an era before the games were widely considered places, or places to be. You know, turning on a game just to simply be in the game. Sure, social apps and games have made an appearance at this point. MUDs, for example, which are text-based games in real time shared with other players, and are direct antecedents of titles like Final Fantasy XIV, which is a game that triumphs in simply being a place to be in. Many places! I'm not knocking on these venerable entertainments. We only got to where we are in video games today because of ROM pack compilations and text-based MMOs. But there's something about adding polygons that helps grease one's way into the digital realms. And so, yes, Namco got a hold of the homies over at Nowpro, a Japanese shadow dev, and tasked them with making a compilation for this newfangled PlayStation that all the kids are raving about, and Namco Museum Volume 1 is what we got out of it. A baseline was established, that is, creating a digital museum space to occupy, an actual destination into and through which one actually plays a video game, because indeed, these Namco arcade titles were, and still are, important and quite historic. Musemic even! Maybe they could have ramped up the immersion by having the games actually be emulated on the replica arcade cabinets and even the lounge TV, but for a first draft, for a first running swing at making a digital video game museum, Nowpro sets us on the path to discovering, exploring, and better understanding the house that Pac-Man built. And hey, Volume 1 sold decent, and decent's decent enough to warrant a second volume, only Nowpro ain't what did it. Another Japanese shadow dev, Tosei, is billed with having made Volume 2. And, well, get ready for some deja vu. If it seems familiar, that's because it is. While the game rooms and their respective museum features are new and different, the structure of Volume 2 is wholly similar to Volume 1. Less than a 4-month gap between releases, one gets the sense that Namco wanted to keep the Namco Museum brand fresh, and so gave Tosei a tight schedule. This means that there isn't much new to show here. The vibes are very much the same as those in Volume 1. Some palette swapping here and there to liven up the place. The game rooms are suitably stylized, though some feel undercooked with a lot of open space and being low on the detail, again suggesting that Volume 2 was rushed. Titles like Xevious and Dragon Buster are landmarks in Japanese arcade history that are, frankly, beyond the scope of my videos. The lack of time spent on individual games in Namco Museum isn't indicative of a lack of interest, but rather, I'm pointing to bigger themes than video game cool. Besides, it's the museum's job to show you how cool and important these games are, so go to the museum. But you know what? A game doesn't have to have the word museum in its title to be musemic. Let's take a quick family vacation. Come on, it'll be fun.
hardiest need apply.
Is this hardy enough for you, motherfucker? Disneyland Adventures is a video game set in Anaheim, California, in the distant past of 2011. You control an unattended child set loose in a stunning recreation of the famous Disneyland theme park. There is no defined end state, no greater goal than running around, hugging guys, dancing with guys, asking them to sign clearly forged legal documents, picking money out of the garbage bins, dressing up, playing paparazzi, lots of fetch questing, and much more. Wonderful, you say to yourself. I could have sworn we were talking about Namco Museum Volume 2, and not this feeble child's game. And we still are. I have a point to all this, but I just need you to hang in there. When I said stunning recreation earlier, I meant it. I have visited the park in California and its neighboring park, California Adventure, which you can actually see from the front gates of Disneyland in the game. And while memory is a pliable and tricky thing, I absolutely was able to find my own way in Disneyland Adventures from the entrance straight to Space Mountain, my favorite ride. I didn't have every brick or storefront memorized, obviously, but the warm coat of familiarity found its way around my shoulders. Main Street USA, the portion of the park all guests enter and leave through, truly has been painstakingly recreated, with emphasis on the pain.
Wait for me.
Wow, neato. So it's very cool that Disneyland Adventures is faithful to the Disneyland park. It is a faith that manifests in both surprising and mundane ways. It can be surprising in how the game actually seeks to educate you about the park and its history. Take this, for instance.
Here's some information I bet you didn't know. Jingles is the lead horse on the carousel. During Disneyland's 50th anniversary, Jingles was dedicated to Julie Andrews. If you look closely, you can see a small umbrella behind Jingles' saddle, honoring Julie Andrews' most famous character, Mary Poppins. I hope I was able to make your visit even more enjoyable.
That in itself is interesting, but what's really, really cool is that you can go back to the carousel to look for that horse, and the horse is actually there, in the game and at the real-world park. This archaeology in miniature is further reified when the eye is turned to the corners and edges of the game's world. Around this corner in Tomorrowland, on the side of the former Carousel of Progress, is a bank of payphones. Including such an artifact certainly dates this game. First released in 2011, one can infer that Disneyland Adventures can be used as a snapshot of the park in the time frame of 2008 to 2011. The inclusion of these Captain EO posters at the Magic Eye Theater also support this theory, given that the show was returned for a brief engagement soon after Michael Jackson's death in 2010. But how about this? Is there anything more mundane than a random electrical panel? I kept noticing this thing located in the Tomorrowland Terrace as I was recording and playing the game, and wondered if even this little texture, applied seemingly with purpose, was another quiet nod towards authenticity. And after some Google image searching, I was delighted to find out that yet again, yes, these maniacs really went the extra mile. Look at that! Who would ever notice it? Me, that's who! 2023's #1 electrical panel noticer. Since the release of this game, the park has undergone several changes, not as much as to be unrecognizable, but surely those payphones have been removed. Big Thunder Ranch is seen suspiciously empty here, nary a baby goat the pet, far ahead of it shuttering in 2016. Jolly Trolley went out in 2003, but its sign yet lives on in Disneyland Adventures. Chip and Dale got evicted in 2020, and Splash Mountain is being rechristened as Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which is a good idea, because the ride was racist. So isn't it nice in some fashion to be able to still see and hear these characters even well after their official exorcism from the Disneyland park? Honestly shocking that the developer got the okay to include these characters, because I don't think they've ever had an official consumer-facing appearance in anything else in the United States aside from the ride, park merchandise, some scattershot appearances in VHS compilations, and book and record stuff. The film was released on home video, but only outside the US. But here these characters are, just as handsomely detailed and animated as the rest of the cohorts all across the park. By the time you're watching this video, these characters have been swept out of the park, alongside the final remnants of the Song of the South. The log ride's still there, sure, but assumedly flensed of its ignoble past. Games like Disneyland Adventures perform a great service in this regard by helping preserve dimensions of the Disney Corporation and the Disneyland Park, especially the unflattering ones like Splash Mountain. Alongside dedicated recreation of the firmament and the superficial, it may not be able to actually take you back in time to 2011, but you can certainly get closer than you might think. Okay, so you're probably wondering, hey, what about all those Disneyland rides? How come we're being very casual and not really examining them? Surely they're at least as important as that electrical panel you love so much you want to marry it, kiss it, mwah mwah. Oh, there's Similitude, I love you so much. Let's run away to Disneyland together and get married and have tangible babies.
Panel freak!
You shut up! Well, homie, you got me. Only a few Disneyland rides got fully modeled, and those are the simple ones, like the Teacups and Dumbo. All the other big e-ticket rides are abstracted into mini-games, such as dodging, shooting, dancing, absconding on the railways, disassociating with ghosts, taking a big swig of colonialism, and pirates. And these are neat sequences, don't get me wrong. I just don't spend that much time in them because, well, I'm here to highlight the parts of this game that one can take into the real world with them, so to speak. You could use Disneyland Adventures to find your way to the Haunted Museum in California, but it can't impart the majesty of actually being in the center of these incredible thematic experiences. And the developer managed to gamify them in a way that, honestly, is much better than just sticking the player on a car and whizzing some polygons past them. The depiction of riding the Tomorrowland Astro Orbiter is really authentic. And really dull. Fully modeling a ride like the Matterhorn might be impressive in and of itself, but if the player can't interact with it meaningfully to be able to explore its many angles and secrets, then yes, the best thing to do is have the player go ski and dodge Yetis with Goofy. And so, as it is with any family vacation, the fun must indeed draw to a close. Disneyland Adventures has always been one of my favorite games. Not so much in its moment-to-moment gameplay, but with its apparent enthusiasm for giving the best impression of an actual place. A real attempt to flatter both the layman and the Disney adherent with its authenticity. The shape of the game, I feel, is in service to preservation. It could never be a replacement for actually being in the park, obviously. Nothing can. One's feeling about Disney as a bloodthirsty stamping tyrant quickly leveling the horizon of film and television aside, the engineering and theatrical triumphs of the Disneyland park have been many and varied across decades. Here, in miniature, is a snapshot one can wander around in, with the sounds, the characters, and the details all brought as close to their ideal as can be in a 3D video game. Saved, preserved, for everyone who comes after we've all passed through, so that they too can delight in rounding the corner and being presented with a tiny edge of reality. so that they too can talk to Karen the guide and hear the actually real facts she presents, so that they too can enrich their actual reality with this simulation of a real place. It is, in this sense, a little like a museum. Yeah, I finally brought it back around, didn't I? And a museum is a place to be, even for the sake of simply being there. I turn on Disneyland Adventures for the same reason I do Namco Museum. To wander, to explore, to let my eyes get caught on the details, to let the magic of immersion do its work, to be the witness that these places need in order to fulfill their function, to ultimately be a part of it. And if that's too sweaty and dreamy for you, then I'm sorry, homie, but that's the kind of soft, humanist dork stuff that I'm going to be putting in the rest of these videos. It's time. You got your mouse ears and Big Rubber California? Check and check. Hands and feet inside the warp tunnel, my little mouseketeer. It's musical interlude time. Okay, I got one last thing here, Okay, so you gotta go through here, okay, alright, past these people, past this pillar there, ignore her, she's a distraction, okay, gotta squeeze past this jerk right here, squeeze past this snotty little kid, okay, yeah, veer to the left, don't go right, okay, past past them too, alright, don't worry about them, okay, alright, over here, okay, alright, okay, in here, okay, in here. You are going to lose your fucking mind. You're not going to believe how cool this is. Those weirdos, those magnificent people, rendered that freaking lamp. You really ought to go to the Disney park.